It becomes easier for us to sense and feel that the emotions that we go through, they're part of the package. It's a ripple of energy as you're starting to birth this version of oneself that you're encouraging everyone to birth. What happens is the fear starts to give way to and be dissolved by this passion for living, and you charting your course and saying, I know what my destiny is, more than any machine or anything on the outside can ever know. Well, welcome back to the Art of Awakening podcast, where the art of living awake becomes a daily practice. I'm your host, Dr. Sue Morter. We want life to be flowing and easy and filled with grace, and there is no better way to enhance that in your life today than what I have in store for you. So here's what I know. My next guest is someone who has been the full gamut, knows the full spectrum of living and actually dying and living again, living freely and fully. She is a renowned author, of course, a spiritual speaker known for her transformative journey and teachings. And she's a best-selling author. Her memoir of Dying to Be Me chronicles her profound journey and her miraculous healing, empowering others to embody their highest self and live a vibrant, purpose-driven life. But I have to say, most importantly to me, she is an amazing friend. She is a beautiful spirit on this planet who walks her talk and is the real deal. And I know that you know who I'm talking about by now. It is my dear friend, Anita Moorjani. So Anita, welcome, welcome, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And likewise, you are one of my dear, dear friends.
We are so blessed to find each other and to share the ideas that we do. Just to let all the listeners know, we became fast friends, like in a single conversation over dinner. We couldn't talk fast enough. I couldn't listen fast enough to what she had to say. And it was just right up my alley, that had been my alley my whole life. And so to meet in this place and to share a conversation with all of you today is lighting up my heart in a very big way. So, Anita, let's just start at the beginning for the few people that may not know your work. Just want to bring them up to speed with the rest of the world. So lean in, everyone. Just want Anita to share a little bit about her journey. Anita, anything that you'd like to share just to lift off about how you have come to this moment in your life?
Well, so first of all, one of the reasons I'm so happy to be here and to be not just here with you, Dr. Sue, because I love you so much, but to be here on planet Earth is because if the doctors were right, I should have died on February the 2nd, 2006. That was supposed to be the last day of my life. Because at that point, I had end-stage cancer. I was in a hospital bed, lying there, dying. And the point I was at was my body was completely emaciated. I weighed about 85 pounds. I had cancer of the lymph glands, lymphoma, and I had tumors the size of golf balls throughout my lymphatic system, from the base of my skull, around my neck, down under my arms, in my chest, all the way down to my abdomen. In my neck and under my arms, you could literally see them protruding. And I was dealing with this cancer for 4 years as it progressed throughout my body. And during that time, it felt as though I was trying everything and nothing was working. Something would work for a little while and then it would stop working. And I was fighting so hard to eradicate this cancer, and I was fighting so hard just to live. But by that point, my body had stopped absorbing nutrition. And so my weight was just dropping. And because I wasn't absorbing nutrition, my muscles had completely atrophied. I could no longer walk. I looked like a skeleton, but my legs didn't even have the strength to hold my body weight up. My neck didn't even have the strength to hold my head up. So even if I was sitting, my head would be hanging down. I couldn't even keep my head up. and my lungs were perpetually filled with fluid. So I really struggled with breathing. So I was connected to an oxygen tank, a portable oxygen with the tubes through my nose. And if I were to take it off even for a couple of minutes, I would be gasping and I would feel like I was drowning. I couldn't lay flat because when I lay flat, I would choke on the fluid from my lungs, and I had these open skin lesions. And I had been going in and out of hospital for treatments and to get the fluid taken out of my lungs. But then towards the end, I was admitted to the hospital, and on February the 2nd, on 2006, on February the 2nd, the doctors told my family that these are my final hours. I had gone into a coma, a deep coma, and they told my family that this was it. I wasn't coming out of the coma. And apparently my body started to swell up, and they said her organs have now shut down. They're shutting down one by one, and the kidneys have already shut down. And she's suffering from oxygen deprivation and malnutrition. And so I was basically on my way out. And up to that point, my body or I had been in so much pain and so much fear and so much discomfort. It was like my physical body was in tremendous pain and discomfort because I couldn't even breathe properly. I couldn't sleep because I couldn't lay flat. And I had so much fear of the cancer, fear of death, fear of the treatments. I just feared everything. And I felt as though on February the 1st, I felt that my life wasn't worth fighting for, and I let go. And that was when I went into the coma. And that was when the doctors told my family these were my final hours and I wasn't going to come out of the coma. And if they had to inform anyone that I was dying, now was the time. But unbeknownst to my family who were around me and they were distraught, I had left my body. Even though my physical body was lying there on that hospital bed in a coma, I was not in it anymore. I had left. And interestingly, I could see, hear, and feel everything that was happening around my physical body. I was able to hear everything the doctors were saying. I was able to see everything, even though my physical eyes were closed and I was outside of my body and nowhere near my physical ears. I had no biology, but it was like I had 360-degree pure awareness of everything that was happening all around and beyond the room that my body was in. And then I realized I was also aware that I'm not in my body, and I became aware of my physical body lying there on that hospital bed. But the thing is, what struck me the most was how incredible I was now feeling. I was feeling amazing. I was feeling powerful and strong. I was feeling things I have never felt when I was in my physical body. I'd never felt it in my life before. I felt big and powerful and free and light. And I felt like I was embodied or bathed in this feeling of unconditional love that, again, I don't remember ever experiencing in physical life. For me, I'd always thought that love had to be earned or worked at. But here I was now outside of my body, and it felt like I was loved just because I existed. I had been so tired before. That tiredness was just lifted. I felt so light. I couldn't believe how I was now feeling. And then I became aware of my family, my husband, my mom. They were distraught because I was dying. I could feel their sadness and how distraught they were. I could feel my mom feeling that she wished it was her instead of me. I could feel how hopeless and helpless the doctors were feeling, and how they didn't even know what to tell my family. And I was aware that one of the doctors was telling my husband, Danny, that I won't even make it for another 24 hours, that this time tomorrow I wouldn't be here. And I was watching all this play out, and I wanted everyone to know that I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm feeling incredible. But of course, I had no voice, I had no biology. And I was in a coma for 35, 36 hours, or just over 30 hours. And during that time, I experienced a lot and I learned a lot. So I'm going to let that unravel during our conversation. But I wanted to say that I I felt an incredible amount of clarity and understood why I had got sick. I understood how it came to be that all the choices and thoughts and decisions that I had made through my life had led me to that point of lying there on that hospital bed. And I reached a point where I had a choice as to whether I wanted to come back into my body or not. And no part of me wanted to come back. Why would I want to come back to a sick body where I had been suffering and my family had been suffering, taking care of me? And I want to say here that when I was in that realm, apart from feeling the unconditional love, I felt like I was surrounded by beings, many of whom I recognized as loved ones who had crossed before, including my dad, who had died 10 years prior. But there were a lot more beings that I didn't recognize. They could have been higher beings, ascended masters, spirit guides. But the commonality was they were all there to help me, and they all loved me unconditionally and wanted me to know that I have always been loved, even when I didn't realize it. Um, and it was particularly my dad, who had died 10 years prior. He wanted me to know that I hadn't completed my purpose yet and that I needed to go back. And I started to understand that now that I knew who I truly was, that I wasn't just a physical body, and now that I understood what it was that led up to the illness and me being there, that if I chose to come back, my body would heal, and it would heal very quickly. And that's when I made the choice to come back into my physical body. And as soon as I made that choice, it was my dad who actually said, "Go back and live your life fearlessly." And I would love to revisit that during our conversation. My dad said, "Go back and live your life fearlessly." And that was when I started to open my eyes. My physical body started to open its eyes, and there was my family. And and they were elated that I was opening my eyes, but I was still very weak and in critical condition. And I started to say things like, "Dad is here. It's not my time. I'm going to be okay. Don't worry." And so they called a doctor. And the doctor, first of all, was surprised that I was able to relay things that had happened in the room while he was there, conversations that he had with my husband. He couldn't explain that. He was shocked. But he also told my family, don't get your hopes up, because she's still very critical. It's not uncommon for dying people to have lucid moments where they seem awake. And this is just a sign that happens before they're going to die. They have lucid moments to communicate with you, and then they're gone. So he basically told my family that it doesn't change anything, the fact that I looked like I'd come out of the coma. However, over the hours and the coming days, they saw I wasn't going back into the coma. Instead, I was getting stronger and stronger. And within 4 days, they could feel the tumors shrinking and getting softer just to the touch. Within 3 weeks, they were struggling to find any sign of cancer and any tumors that were even big enough to suggest cancer. And in 5 weeks, they released me from the hospital to go home and live my life cancer free. And I was only supposed to focus on getting my body stronger and healthier through nourishment. And that was on March 9th, 2006. And basically here I am.
And here you are. Oh my goodness. So, first of all, I want to thank you for revisiting this story for our audience. I know that you have revisited that story many, many times for people around the world to hear and to have a context for the magnificence of your journey to be here. And I know that as we relive those things, you go back into the whole experience in your relaying of that information. And so it is such a testament to the service that you are in to be willing to and interested in, and actually, I know you, inspired to share the story because of the outcome, right? Because of where you came. And so it allows that journey to be inspiring for everyone who hears it. But I know that, being asked to repeat and repeat and repeat that is a thing. And I just want to honor you for having that become part of your service to humanity. It is dearly, dearly appreciated. And I know that our listeners are very aware of, all of the implications of that. And what I love about you is that you have emphasized what to do, how to live fearlessly, how to be alive fully in your life and in your teachings. And for everyone who comes into your space, they are blessed to have that revealed to them in a lived through manner, authentically lived through, not theory, but your personal experience. And this is what I honor so much in the world is when we are sharing our experience, regardless of what doctors or science or anyone
Mhm.
has to say about what is possible. We are opening doorways for people constantly. When I read your book, so many of the things that you experienced as you were coming into, back into this realm are things very similar to my experience of accessing these higher states of consciousness and then coming back into form. And there's a value system that gets established in us that is like, okay, here's how we're supposed to live, people. We're wasting time. We're putting our attention on all the wrong things that are keeping us from truly living into our fullness. Now, you mentioned that you want to revisit something about your dad, and I want to do that now so that we don't forget. If there was something in particular that you would like to share, we would love to hear it. I have some other questions that I want to get to as well, but let's do that to make sure that it gets to be shared.
So it was the reason it was important to me to revisit that was because my dad, I had a terrible relationship with my dad when I was growing up. And he was someone who I felt I always disappointed him. And I come from a culture, wait, excuse me a moment. So, a little bit about my background. I come from a culture, at least at that time when I was growing up, where boys or men were favored over women. And even as a child, I know that my dad would have preferred to have a son as opposed to a daughter, although I do have a brother. And I didn't realize as a child that just by being a girl, I was a disappointment to him. So I spent a lifetime of trying to win his approval and never did, never won his approval. I was never good enough for him. And, I was being groomed to be a good Hindu girl and I rebelled. But even so, I did give in at many points and gave in to an arranged marriage, which I eventually ran away from, bringing a lot of shame to my family. So my dad, when he passed away, I felt I was a huge disappointment to him. And I felt I would be judged by him and that he was probably judging me from the other side. When I encountered him, his spirit, his being, his light being. We are not physical bodies, but it was his essence and my essence. When I encountered it on the other side, all I felt from his pure essence was just unconditional love,
Yeah.
pure unconditional love. It wasn't even a case of forgiveness. It was as though there was nothing to forgive. All he felt for me was love. And it was like we had this understanding that just like I had been a victim of my culture, he was a victim of the same culture. We were playing our roles. And so it was just the most beautiful and freeing feeling to get to complete this circle with my dad,
Mm.
because he was the one who instilled fear in me my whole life, that actually led up to the point of me getting so sick, because everything I did in my life, every choice I made, every decision I made was from a place of a fear of disapproval. Well, after I had gone into adulthood, it was programmed into me that I needed to seek approval. And so he was the one that instilled that fear of disapproval in me and during my life. And in death, when he said, go and live your life fearlessly, he was the one that freed me from that fear.
How beautiful. That is, I talk about something called the bus stop conversation, where we meet before we come into this realm, as if we are having conversations and saying, here's what I want to learn about me, here's what I want to learn about me. And we agree to meet up or to be entangled in some way, the nest that we land in, as well as the relationships that we establish thereafter, in order to evolve ourselves in the ways that we can. And so we take on these roles that are our ability to express here as best we can. And it's the perfect ricochet. It's the perfect interaction that we bounce off of and that we find friction with, that allow us to eventually, one way or another, reach inside ourselves and find this truth of who we are. And we come to know ourselves more because of those relationship dynamics that are so challenging. You had it full steam ahead, 100% in that experience of returning to the bus stop level of consciousness and saying, you're not done yet, so get back in there. And you had to say yes to that because, you had a choice as well. And so in your yes, that was apparent because the next thing you knew, you were opening your eyes and coming back into this space. Can you recall any felt sense in your body that was there as your eyes were opening? Or was it just really the experience that had all of your attention? Was there any place that you sat down or laid back down or slid back in to the body structure that stands out when you go back and think about that was a new home base for you, or how it may have felt any differently, even though your sensory system was definitely, taxed under the circumstances and the level of health that you were not experiencing? Is there anything that you can recall about what
Yeah.
it felt like in those initial moments or just before you opened your eyes?
Yes, my body felt heavy and dense and too small to contain everything that I had just experienced. It was like I was trying to squeeze into this body, and I started to feel all the discomfort points again, the labored breathing, and I started to feel them.
Mhm.
And yet it was interesting. It was juxtapositioned by the emotional feeling, because there was a sense of euphoria that I brought from what I experienced. So there was this euphoric feeling of like, wow, I got to experience the real me. That's the real me, not this body. So there was this euphoric feeling that no matter what happens, even if I die, I'm okay. So the fear, the euphoria comes from the lack of fear. The fear was gone.
Um,
And I don't remember ever living my life with no fear. That's just, it was like there wasn't a time I could remember where I felt this clear, this euphoric, this light mentally and emotionally, but I could feel the density of the body. And
mm,
so there was these two things happening at the same time, where I was aware of the pain and the sensations again.
Mm,
I was aware of the labored breathing, but I didn't fear it because I had this knowledge that you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
mhm. Yeah, I kind of liken this essence, this true spiritual essence that we are coming back into a body. It's not the whole of our being that is stuffed into the body. It's sort of like putting on a pair of shoes. There's a whole lot of your body that's not in the shoe. There's a whole lot of our spirit that's not in the body and confined to that. And you had awakened to that rest of who you are. And so you knew that you could heal this body because it wasn't defining you. You knew who you were without it. And so that's a beautiful place to be. That's really what I spend my world, my time, my life teaching people about the rest of who they are so that we don't have to go into such extremes, my goodness, that you are sharing here today, and to still glean from the beautiful and the bountiful message that you're bringing. Now, you mentioned about emotions, and what we know is that the emotional body of energies is sort of this bridge between pure spirit, pure light, and this physical body form, and that your emotions hadn't really been in alignment with your true self because here you were experiencing a version of yourself that you'd never had before, and then you were coming back into the body and you felt different emotional states that we're now having to merge and reconcile in those moments. So, what would you say, given your amazing experience, to someone who tends to get locked into their emotional body as if it's the truth of who they are and not be able to sense and feel the bigger version that is this ecstatic presence, this ananda, this blissful version of who we are? Any kind of guidelines that you could set up for someone regarding their own emotions?
So, first of all, I would want them to know. I would want them to know my story, and I would want them to know that they are more than they believe they are. But I would encourage them to have deep journeys, like deep meditations or journeys, or spend time out in nature away from all the social media, news, all electronics, and just turn inwards. And when we are able to actually quiet our mind and meditate, and I know for a lot of people this is hard, but it can take practice. But I would really want people to know that there is a you that is more than this body. It's not less than, it is actually more and bigger. This physical body is very limited in comparison to who you really are. What I would also want them to know is that the reason my physical body healed was because I became aware of the something greater, and the physical body kind of followed that.
Mm,
What happens here, this is again, I would spend a lot of time sharing with them that what happens in this physical world is that when we have an illness and when we're dealing with the medical model and doctors, when they tell us this illness is serious, you're not going to make it, what they're doing is they're shrinking us back down to our body. In other words, they're reducing our probability of healing by doing that. What this experience has taught me is that our entire way of looking at illness is back to front, inside out. At the time when we need to expand the most, our entire way of dealing with illness is shrinking us down the most.
mm,
The more we shrink down, the more we get these fear-based messages of, oh, this is terminal, this is not good, oh, you're going to die. The more we get those messages, the more we reduce ourselves to just our physical bodies and go into this fear state, the more we're actually cutting ourselves off from who we really are and getting the expanded messages. The other thing that I learned that I would want people to know is that our soul, our soul, this soul or our deceased loved ones or God or essence, whatever we want to call it, the all that is communicating with us all the time. It doesn't stop. When you tune in, there are messages for you. And all these messages are telling you or giving you guidance on how to be more fully you. In other words, it's also helping you to heal, and it's helping you to be more fully you. And the more that you are in this fear, the fear of the illness, the fear of what's happening in your body, the less able you are to hear those messages, because fear brings you right down. It makes your energy denser, and our guidance finds it harder to penetrate through that fear.
Mm.
So that's something to remember. And I had something really important that I wanted to share, which was very tangible, and I lost that thought. That happens sometimes,
Yes.
but it was something, and I'm hoping it'll come back because
Yeah.
it was one that would really help people. Um, oh yes, I remember. So, what I would ask anybody who is going through an illness right now, I want you to remember that our medical system focuses on the illness, on eradicating the illness. I want you to focus on two things. One is, I want you to look through the illness to the other side and see yourself as well and ask yourself, what am I going to do when I get a clean bill of health? I literally want you to pretend you got this clean bill of health right now, and you have the rest of your life ahead of you. What are you going to do with it?
Right.
Now, one thing I want to remind you is the life you were living before may have been the life that led you to getting the illness. So you might have to make some changes.
Right.
So get real and start to create a life that you look forward to living.
Mhm.
So while the doctors are still telling you you're dealing with this illness and they're focused on the illness and eradicating the illness, I want you to focus on creating a life that you look forward to living, because people who have something to look forward to and have something to live for are more likely to survive than those who dread their life and hate their life and have nothing to look forward to. So
Mhm.
that's number one. The second thing is, while the doctors are focusing on eradicating illness, I want you to focus on expanding wellness. What does it mean to you to be well and healthy? What does it look like? What are you eating? How are you exercising? What are you doing? Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. What does a healthy life look like to you? Start creating that. So
Mm.
these are the two things. Focus on wellness and focus on creating a life that you're looking forward to living.
Mm.
So when I say wellness, focus on expanding wellness as opposed to eradicating illness.
Mhm.
Those are the two things I would say.
Beautiful. I think that's one of the first conversations we had at dinner. We were like, "Oh, yes, this is it. This is the answer right there." And this is so, so beautiful, and our community is definitely aligned with this. And what it sort of does is it puts the whole diagnosis in a perspective where it's not the center of your existence. And there's something that the part of you that pierces right through that and on to what's next for you, puts it in a context that isn't, on top of you and controlling everything about your every thought and your every dream of the future or of your own capacity. And when we start to do that, it becomes easier for us to sense and feel that the emotions that we go through are part of that. They're part of the package. It's a ripple of energy as you're starting to birth this version of oneself that you're encouraging everyone to birth, Anita. What happens is the fear starts to give way to and be dissolved by this passion for living, and you charting your course and saying, I know what my destiny is more than any machine or anything on the outside can ever know. What they're measuring is who I used to think of myself to be. And I'm
I love it.
recognizing a greater truth and I'm moving on that. And so the tests will show up soon. and I'm moving forward before the tests show me that I'm, making progress. It's like we're creating in the dark. We just have to innovate and generate what our future is to be. And that's when we feel all that emotional stir, it's just fear dissolving. That's what it is. But if we get
Yes.
caught by that and consumed in those vibrations that happen in our system, physically, emotionally, etc., all of that energy, what happens is we retreat and we go back to the fear and thinking that something out there is bigger than me. But what we know
Yes.
is that we're as big as it gets. It doesn't get any bigger than who we really are. And so, what a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know that's going to serve a lot of people here. Now, I know that we talk about alignment with this bigger being, this bigger version of ourselves, and having a sense of authenticity about ourselves, meaning I'm going to count on me. I'm going to drop in here and figure out what I feel and what I choose and what I would innovate and create for myself. And healing comes as a byproduct of that. And by doing so, we begin to cultivate a trusted version of ourselves, one that knows. And I'd love for you to just speak about, what is that role of trust and faith in terms of the outcome that's coming? Is there anything that you can share with people about, sometimes trusting that they have the power to do what you did, that they have the power, the strength to move into a healing mode instead of a diseased condition? Is there anything that you can share with them about the mental body and its ability to trust that my visioning my future is enough to actually allow that to unfold? Is there any kind of supercharge to that you can think of to share with people, that they have a potent value in what they can dream up and not marginalize their own ability to heal?
I love that. So first of all, um, we we need to be aware of what our thoughts are doing in our physical body. How do we feel in our physical body about our thoughts? And one of the things that I want to I want to point out is that when people are dealing with this, sometimes even after I've explained and said everything I've said, people then go off and they try too hard. They then become stressed about getting it right. How do I do this? How do I get into that state? Do I need to write? And oh, I'm still feeling fear. They're trying too hard. What I encourage people to do is stop trying so hard. If you're feeling fear, allow that fear to come through you. Don't push it away. The more you push fear away, the more you push thoughts away, the more they're going to come at you. Relax into them and allow yourself to just be.
Mhm.
Um, what happens is that when we have all these fear-based thoughts, the more you push them away, the more you're adding stress to your life because you're now thinking, I'm not getting it right. So I want to really articulate this properly. What I would love for people to try is like maybe 30 minutes a day, maybe an hour a day, if they can, is to just allow themselves to be without trying, without doing, without watching anything, without working, like literally have a time where they just wind down and allow themselves to be completely okay with where they are right now. I am here right now, and that's it. And that's all that matters. You can even ask yourself the question, am I safe? And usually the question is yes, because what we do is we mistake, we think we're in danger all the time. And so our minds are always on this high alert, this fight or flight, survival. But if you can keep reminding yourself that you don't need to be in high survival, even if you're going through a disease. And this is the worst part about dealing with a disease and dealing with the medical system, is that it puts you into this survival mode all the time. What we want to do with the mind is we want to get it out of that survival mode So just ask yourself, am I safe? And usually the answer is yes, I'm actually safe right now. And feel yourself relaxing and just relaxing.
One of the things that happens is that we begin to realize that we're we're chasing the symptom when we start letting the disease or the test results run our lives. We're
Yes.
we're driving down the road looking in the rearview mirror. We're trying to get down the road by looking in the rearview mirror of what's already happened.
Yes.
And so instead of um, really living, we're living to fix a symptom. But what you're talking about is, hey, 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 we got to work at the causal level, and not even from this perspective of, let me look at what caused my disease. You're going even a step further, which is what I love to do with people as well. And that is just live, live. And healing happens as a byproduct of you living fully, living freely, just as dear old dad told you to go back and do. What happens then is we are in the flow, and we're not self evaluating, nor are we looking at what did I do wrong that caused my disease. What we want to do is flip it over and just say, okay, what can I do that expresses myself more fully? What can I be and say and do today that is a more authentic expression of me versus hiding or trying to please or suppressing something so that I fit in or so that I'm loved or whatever? What would you be doing if you were just free? What would you be doing if nobody was questioning the beauty that you are bringing? And when we start doing that, we're living as the authentic self. When we're way back here trying to live relative to healing a disease based upon the results that we're getting, we're in the back seat looking out the rear view, window, trying to see, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? If we even go to this causal level of the disease, we are still looking at what caused me, what, and then we have a tendency to blame or to shame ourselves
Yes.
or others. And what we're saying here right now, everyone, is no, no, no. Let's bring it right on, full steam ahead. Look down the highway for yourself. Be free to step into whatever you feel called to do, because that's your, what I was referring to as the bus stop conversation. Your destiny is to live this fullness and this freeness that we are speaking about. And when it comes from a place of consciousness and love, you can do no wrong, even if it's not the same thing that your family or your culture would have you be doing. When you do what's right for you, it literally becomes what's right for everyone. And
Yes.
you sort of don't even worry about that. You're just being you, and it's filled with love, and it's expressing that love. And so it's not like we have to worry about hurting others or hurting our chances if we do what we truly feel. We're just inviting people to look down the road, look ahead. Don't second guess yourself and question and constantly be evaluating and likely judging yourself in all the ways that we do when we start treating symptoms, when we start looking at what's wrong and trying to fix it and trying to figure out what's causing my problems. Instead, let's turn the tides in another way. And that is, a gorgeous thing. So thank you so much for your share in that direction. It's most
Ye-
magnificent. Yeah.
And you articulated that very well. That was 100%, yeah, spot on.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right. So, something that just kind of is coming forward in our conversation is, this idea of trust and faith and, putting ourselves down the road and just letting go of all the conditions and the ideas and the rules and the regulations for just a moment, and allowing yourself to make choices, knowing that we're good people and we make good choices. We're not going to
Yeah.
blow it up. It's not a bad thing that's going to come out if you set yourself free. And
Yeah.
so I'd love to kind of move into a little bit of a conversation about that self-love, the role of love that you feel is helpful when it comes to getting down that highway, and even being able to arrange our thinking in a way that is that is allowing us to flourish. If we're so used to, treating symptoms and living by the rules and trying to please others and all of that, I find that it is completely empowering for people to discover a feeling of love inside of them that is unconditional, something that's just there. It's not anything anybody has to give them. It's just like the love of life and the love of beauty and the love of creating and the joy of engaging that. So I would love any input that you have for our audience that just kind of brings your perspective of what is the role of this unconditional love, this divine love, really, was what you were surrounded in when you were not in the body, and you
Yeah.
recognized some of the beings that were there, and the rest of them, you just knew that they were for you. There was love pouring into you from every direction. And how can we start to activate that in our listeners and encourage them to know that it's in their reality also, and
Yes.
to tap into that in all ways that might be helpful?
So the first thing I would want people to know is that they already have access to that love, that self-love. They were born with it. Babies are born loving themselves and being authentic, but it gets conditioned out of us. So it's always there. So what we have to do, first of all, is become aware that self-love is a really good thing. One of the things we've been conditioned to believe is that it's selfish to love yourself. And people think it's egotistical to love yourself. In fact, it's the opposite. The most selfish or egotistical people are acting from a place of lack of self love. When you truly love yourself, it's not loud, it's not vocal, it's not selfish. When you truly love yourself, you know that you are connected to something bigger. You know that there is enough to go around. You know you don't have to deprive somebody else in order for you to be fulfilled. So when you truly love yourself, you become one of the most selfless people. Um, and it really is about loving yourself to the point where you have so much love that you are giving very freely. So the idea to get to that point is to remove the blockages, because that is our natural state.
Mhm.
Because in actuality, we are connected to the whole, to whatever we want to call it, source, God. We're all part of it. We're all bathed in love. But we close ourselves off because we think it's selfish. We think there's not enough to go around, and we put up these blocks, and we're told that you have to give others first. You have to love others more. Now, here's the irony: most people who belong to some form of religion or other are taught, first of all, that it's better to give than to receive. And secondly, that you should learn to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Two things. If everybody's just giving and everybody feels it's bad to receive, then where's all the giving going? You need to allow people to have the pleasure of giving by also being okay to receive, because when
Mm,
you receive, you're not just receiving from that person. They're not depriving themselves to give you. You're actually receiving gifts from the universe, from God, from source. What source gives you comes through other people. So that's one. And the second statement I said was about love your neighbor as yourself. How good is that love going to be if you've always learned to dislike yourself, if you've always learned it's selfish to love yourself,
mm,
if you never learned to love yourself, if you think it's a bad thing, that's how you're going to treat your neighbors too.
mm,
So I always say the first thing is to remove the blockages. And once you remove the blockages, the self-love, you start to feel it. First a little bit, and then more and more.
mhm,
And what it looks like you being unafraid to be who you are, being unapologetically you. It's you realizing that being spiritual and being yourself are one and the same thing,
mm.
because what are you but a spiritual being?
Yes, indeed. Love, love, love this. And sometimes I find that if someone will just initiate the felt sense of love, even if they have to pay attention to something or someone that they love, or maybe it's the springtime or a newborn baby or the light dancing on the water as it's moving, whatever it stirs you, and catch that
Yes.
feeling in your body and start practicing it even when you're not actually seeing it. Just keep practicing it and practicing it, and that dissolves the blockages because I know the human mind, and we have a tendency to say, "Okay, I gotta remove my blockages to love. Now I gotta go find my blockages." Now we're looking for what's wrong again, you know? So, where did I invent that blockage, and where did that come from? And so we just have to drop in and start. Just drop in and start. It's like,
Yes.
the beauty of what happened with you, Anita, is that you were just in it. You didn't try.
Was.
You stopped trying, and you were in it. You were out of your body and in the realms that have been spoken about in sacred texts for millennia, and you were floating in that space. And then your father said, You're going back, kid. You're not done." So
Yes.
you dropped back in, and there it was. You were here with this. And so, we just want everyone to know that they can begin by just beginning. We don't have to find what's making us sick. We just begin the wellness and the wholeness and the celebration of life and feel it in our bodies, and it begins to dissolve those patterns. And you'll start to
Yes.
notice it. You'll be like, "Oh, here's one of those moments where I overgive," or "Here's one of those moments where I say,
Mhm.
'Thank you, no, I can't really receive that,' or here's one of those moments where I don't really want to go do that thing, but I go because I think I should," where I
Yeah,
start to see, you know, "Thank you, no," is a complete sentence, and it's loving, right? So,
it is.
yeah, how beautiful,
Yeah.
how
I
beautiful.
love that, and also to feel it, as you said, is like even holding a baby or playing with your pet, cuddling your little puppy, and
Yes,
which
yes.
I see you do a lot, so which is
Yes.
wonderful, and things like that, and even art and doodling. For me, I love losing myself in music and art, and that's when you really feel the expansion, the love, and you know that there's more. Yeah.
Indeed, and that's a vibrational frequency that where healing happens. That's the vibrational frequency where wholeness resides, and where wholeness resides, healing happens as an automatic byproduct of that. And I
Yes.
think that that's part of what our culture just really needs to equate to: how do I heal? I heal by engaging the joy and engaging the passion. And if you can't find the joy or the passion, you find one little thing that feels very deeply special to you, and it's a
Yeah.
spark, and it ignites that spark, and then you start to resonate and relate to more and more things along those lines, and it builds itself by nature. Nature's on our side, right? What we're talking
Yes. Nature's on our side. Nature is always trying to heal us. I mean, our bodies organically are always working towards healing.
Yes.
Mm, mm.
So, just we're kind of winding down in our time, but I do have one more question here, and that's about caregivers that are supporting loved ones.
Wow.
Those that
Yes.
are holding the space for someone else who is going through what they are going through. And maybe that individual isn't here listening to this conversation. Maybe that individual doesn't even have the awareness that this kind of conversation takes place. But the people who are here listening and engaging with us, they have lives and people in them, and they may know someone, or they may themselves be taking, offering care to someone who is in a chronic situation like this, a degenerative process. Um, what could you say to those people, um, to be able to stay present with love and compassion inside of those moments when we want what we want? We want them to live, we want them to be here. What
Yeah.
does that exchange do for the healing process?
Wow. I really feel for caregivers because they don't get enough attention. They don't, because all the attention goes to the person who needs the care. I mean, the person who's unwell, who's going through whatever they're going through, and the caregiver is often overlooked. So that's so beautiful that you've brought that to attention, because my main caregiver was Danny, and he was incredible. And I can share with you some of the things that he did, which meant so much to me, which were so helpful.
Mm.
But, but for the sake of the caregiver, I would first of all say that they really do need to take care of themselves and not feel guilty. That is so important because a caregiver often, when they take time out to do something that's fun, they feel guilty because the person they're taking care of is unwell and dying and unable to do these things. But remember that after you've done something fun and after you've kind of refreshed yourself, you'll go back a more energetic, higher vibe, refreshed person for the person that you're taking care of. So
Right.
it's really important you do that.
Mm,
But on the receiving end of care from Danny, one of the things that I appreciated most about him, more than anything, was he didn't treat me like a sick person.
mm,
He didn't make me feel like I was sick. Even though he sensed my needs, he acted like they were normal. You know, I would say, "Oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm not able to walk from here today." And he goes, "That's no big deal." And he would just set it up to make it really easy for me. But nothing felt like a chore to him, at least not in my presence. Um, and and I think that's why it's so important for them to take care of themselves so they are not completely depleted and drained and feel like it's a chore when they're with the sick person because the sick person feels it and they feel even worse.
mm,
So really take care of yourself. Um, he made me feel he never made me feel like a sick person. He made me feel like everything that was happening or all my needs were just normal. And he never commented that I was looking worse or better. And he was just normal with me. Like,
yeah,
I'm his wife and we're going to do these things together. And he would figure out things that we could still do together where I didn't feel inadequate or that I was bringing him down. He would just say, let's do this. Oh, if you sit on a chair here in the kitchen, you can supervise me while I'm cooking. I need you to supervise me. And he would create these fun activities and make like it was just normal, and I loved that.
mm,
And he would always speak about the future as normal, as though I'm going to be in it. Even though doctors thought I was gonna die, he didn't take that attitude.
mm,
And he spoke about our future together and what we were going to do when I feel better, when I have more strength. He never made like I was sick. He said, "Oh, when you're ready, we're going to do this. We're going to go here."
mhm.
That was so fabulous. And I think that even for the caregiver, that's probably more uplifting than treating the person they're caring for as a patient.
And
Uh,
what a beautiful gift. I mean, even if you had made your transition, isn't it beautiful that your days leading up to that moment were filled with life instead of filled with grief? That they were
Yes,
filled with living and invitations and celebrating life instead of, imploding on all the what ifs and really having that loom overhead all the time. And I 100% contend that that creates the environment where someone can find themselves. They're not being consumed in the diagnosis and the prognosis and, the what ifs and getting online and reading all the things that are likely to happen and just flooding their life with, a closed door and making themselves smaller and living into, the prognosis. Instead, there was something else that was held open and kept open. And so, yeah, we want to
yes,
encourage all the caregivers out there to just let life be life every second that it is here. And by doing so, we are providing the perfect environment for someone to, disconnect from that story and find themselves as the timeless, really being, immense, unbounded, limitless presence that they truly, truly are. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, how
yeah.
beautiful. Anita, it's so great. I could keep you here forever. In fact, let's just go another hour. What do you say?
Yeah, let's keep going the whole day.
Yes.
I
So
love
soon we're
talking
gonna
to
be
you.
together and we're gonna be able to do that. I'm headed your
Yeah.
way before long. So, um, is there I'm gonna, tell people how to, to connect with you and all about your fabulous newsletter in a moment, but I just wanted to see if there's anything else that you would like to say before we begin to, take the next turn in our conversation today.
I just wanted to add that no matter where people are in their life, no matter what they're doing, just just always keep your future open-ended. um, Allow for expansion, not contraction. And that means doing what feels good. Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid. And you don't need anybody's approval. You really don't. You're here. You matter. Everybody matters. Find your joy, whatever that looks like, whether it's playing with your puppies or eating chocolate. Um, that's why you're here, really. And when you find your joy, that's what you bring to the world.
Beautiful. Living our true self. That is truly where healing, all healing comes from. And beyond healing, it's where really fulfilling our destiny, the reason we came. We're here to live and we're here to express that creatively. So you can
Yes.
find Anita's best-selling memoir, Dying to Be Me, along with her other works through the link in the show notes. She has amazing books, multiples, and she does all sorts of talks and coursework, and you can connect with her. You can connect with us in live events together sometimes. So
Yes.
always keep your lookout for that because we absolutely love bringing those things together. So visit www.anitamoorjani.com. That's in the show notes, and learn more about her teachings and her events and her offerings. It is, just such a beautiful, beautiful thing that you bring, Anita, and we are so, so blessed to have you. Um, I'm going to share a little something here and then I'll come right back to you, Anita. I just also wanted to share with everyone that I'm so excited that my new book, The Anatomy of Awakening, is now available for pre-sale. And I think this is the first time I'm actually saying that out loud, and I'm thrilled about that. In this book, I introduce the sacred invisible structure within us that holds the key to greater peace and healing, transformation, and the love that we are speaking about right now, how to find it, how to turn it on, and why that is so important. It's about awakening to the vibrational frequency of this greater love. It's completely divine and unconditional, and we're made of it. And we are aligning with 5 hidden codes that allow us to live our highest selves. And you can find The Anatomy of Awakening wherever books are sold, and we'll include a link in the show notes for you to pre-order that as well if you are interested in that today. So, Anita, geez, how blessed are we to be
We
together, to have this friendship, and to share in this way. And, just any last words that you'd like to connect in with?
Now I just wanted to say that I did get a pre-published copy of your book, and it's fabulous. It's fabulous.
Oh.
So I would highly recommend everyone read it. And thank you. You put wonderful words even to my experience. You give it a wonderful process when we're talking. That means, I
Mm.
mean, now when we're talking,
Mhm.
yeah, I loved everything about this conversation, and I can't wait to see you soon.
I know, me too. And thank you so, so much for being here. It is always a joy to be with you, and it's a special joy to share you with all the folks that listen in and are a part of the Art of Awakening podcast. So thank you again for being here, Anita. And
Thank
thank
you.
you to all of our listeners as well for spending time with us today in the Art of Awakening podcast and blending science and spirituality to empower you to create a life that you truly love. That's why we're here, and that's what we're doing. So until next time, I'm Dr. Sue Morter. Blessings, blessings to you all.